Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Thinking Scrubs podcast. I'm your host, Raymond, and with me today is Ian.
Hi guys, this
So,
is
today,
Ian. Oh,
Ian, yeah, so Ian, today you have actually a dual role in this episode.
yes, I do. Uh, Disclaimer up front: I am a big fan of the Galactic Empire, but I am no way an expert. But I have been playing this faction for a long time.
Yeah, before we jump the gun, let's tell them what we're doing here in the first place. So, for those who are tuning in for the first time, this is our new segment called Faction Orientation.
Woohoo!
Here, we're going to discuss for new players, what are the strengths and weaknesses of this faction, the Galactic Empire, for this episode? Why you should pick the Galactic Empire?
Yes, pick it.
Yes,
Do it.
and what are some of the pros and cons from selecting this faction and things you need to know, etc., like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as mentioned before, if you watch any of our previous episodes, you should know how it's gonna go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, moving forward, and so, as I said today, our special guest speaker and also our fellow thinking scrub is Ian.
Woohoo!
So, Ian, we only know about you as a thinking scrub, but who are you as a Galactic Empire player?
As a Galactic Empire player,
Have
hmm.
you always played Empire since the beginning?
No, no. Well, kind of. I've been collecting ships from the Empire. I'm still planning to complete the whole range, but I do side with the quote unquote evil factions on Star Wars Saga. And yes, I think 70 to 80% of my collection is Empire.
Well, mainly because they have the most number of ships, right?
Yes, one of those. I think I started collecting about 3 years ago, and I was buying secondhand ships a lot, and usually they bundle their deals with a lot of Tie fighters. There's a lot of Tie fighters floating in the market at that time, and I was just mopping those up. So I have a lot of excess Tie fighters, and I just said, hey, why not complete the whole range of Empire instead? So here I am today. I have a good amount of ships from the Empire.
How many TIE fighters do you own, Ian? What's the magic
About
number?
I don't know the exact number because I've repainted and modded some, if not a lot, but it's about 2 dozens.
Wow, that's two
I haven't
dozen.
done
That's
the exactly counting.
three times the number of ships that you
Yeah,
can carry in the
if
game.
if I invite you to play over, we can play Empire Swarms together.
Yeah. Well, not only that, you can have three people play Empire Swarm
Yeah,
together.
I'm ready. I'm ready for epic. Okay.
Yeah, perfect for epic. So, what was it about the Galactic Empire that drew you? That says, hey, I like the Empire. I think I'll play the Empire.
Um, One, first of all, I'm a fan of the Return of Jedi. I think I've watched it since I was a kid. It was still in VHS, and I really like the swarm and the scream of the Tie fighters when they just flock and uh, cause some trouble for the rebels. And I think it's sparked an interest in me just because they're basically cannon fodder, and only Vader gets to be the protagonist antagonist here, and everyone else is just okay. Do your job, cause some trouble, and get blown up. So I like the ruthlessness aspect of it, and uh, that's it. Actually, that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, and then nothing more intimidating than seeing a swarm of TIE fighters coming your way. It's
Yeah,
block.
sure.
Yeah, so it's like they're blocking out the sun with all their TIE fighters and all that stuff.
I also like if you watch some of the Rebels episode, I like how they portray that the TIE fighters there are the most generic ships of the Empire, and they really symbolize that if you see a TIE fighter, there's gonna be some trouble. There's going to be chaos, and I like twists, and yeah, that's it.
Cool, cool. Okay, so speaking of the Galactic Empire, talking about them, so let let's try to give a background and identity to who they are. I mean, we can't assume that every new player has watched all the movies, so they might
Mm-hmm.
be thinking, "Oh, they must just know Darth
Yes.
Vader, or they
Let's
just
just
know
assume that
the M."
everyone here is new to Star Wars and new
Yeah,
to X-Wing. Okay, so if you can see those guys at the back, those are the main reasons why you have to select Empire. So, Galactic Empire is actually the faction which is considered as the antagonist of the original trilogy. So, you have
mm,
the rebels versus the Empire, and uh, for them, their motivations are to keep the systems in line. Palpatine gets to emphasize his autocracy, and of course to establish the empire control in every planet and to subdue the rebellion. And for this, I think also Empire is the first one of the first two factions that FFG or Fantasy Flight Games introduced with X-Wing 1.0. And right now they're still very viable and actually competitive in the X-Wing scene.
yeah. The world champion played a imperialist, right?
Yes, it's a very tricky list and it's a high ceiling, but we'll get to that later. Also, I think the Empire is what if you want to play Empire, if you really have the feel of a height of power when Palpatine was in dominion of almost the all of the galaxy. He was really in control of the Imperial Navy, where there are plenty of ships, big capital ships, and uh, everyone is flying around and being effective and efficient, even if they're fragile. I think, and of
Yeah,
course,
it's
there's
like we don't care. We have like a ton more, so just send some more.
send some
Yeah.
more, and or we're gonna send more bodies to you. And of course, that's dauntingly impressive. And well, yeah, Empire's great.
Yeah.
Join the Empire.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, our recent world champion played an imperialist. So
Mhm.
as you can see, the Imperials still very meta viable.
There's no school like the old school, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, I think in in first edition, reaching up to second edition, they were never a lower tier faction. They were never
Yes,
missing from the
they were
meta.
always on the upper half of the power level. If we come to an abstract idea, they're always there's because of the options you have, you can always cherry pick which ones are viable, and you can easily ignore some of the things that they nerf, quote unquote. But uh, the Empire has a lot of strengths, which is not game breaking. That's what I'm gonna say.
Not game breaking. Okay.
At least in this edition.
Well, yeah, there's nothing game breaking about 2.0 as of now, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
it's way more balanced than before. But still, you know, there's still some
There's some
names that will
quirks.
come
Yeah,
out.
there's some quirks that we need to FFG needs to fix, and we just need to play around it. Yeah.
True, true. Even if they try to nerf your Imperials, they're still strong.
Yeah.
They can't do anything. They still win and stuff.
You
Okay.
really can't erase the dark side. If there's light, there's dark side.
Yes, there will always be the dark side. Okay, so now moving on deeper into the faction identity itself. So there are a lot of things to like about the faction, and of course there are also some cons. There can't be all
Yes,
they
yes,
all good. Otherwise, everyone would be just playing Imperials.
yes, yes.
Okay, so first we have is the strength in numbers, and so as you mentioned, like Tie fighters and all that stuff, are
Mhm.
there's so many that you could field, and it's so easy to fill up us a squad of four, at least four ships.
Yes. For since the points we're counting points here, right? Strength in numbers. So usually, FFG decides that I think the basis of FFG X-Wing's 2.0 pointage is the TIE Fighter, if I'm not mistaken. So they determined that the TIE Fighter is the most balanced ship that they've ever created. So everything was based off of it. And it's actually an affordable ship. You also get two pieces of it when you buy the core set. So it emphasizes that you really can't just field one. You have to field a lot of these TIE fighters. But of course, it's one of the options you consider in playing Empire, that you can play a lot of these weak ships and just hope that they do damage, if not block the enemy or cause them trouble for
Yeah, but you don't
opposing
care if
players.
they
Yeah,
actually
and
hurt.
they die. That's just one ship. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a measly what,
Hmm.
24 points out of
Yes,
200. Is it
and you
24?
also get to,
23.
if you're a new player and you see a swarm of ships across the table, you're subconsciously programmed to fly away from it. So I think that's one strength of Empire also. If you don't know how to fly against it, it will really play to the Empire's advantage.
True, true. And even if you changed it up and went to a more ace list, you could still easily fit three or four ships.
Yes, that's
So very cost efficient for the faction.
true.
And next we have is strengthen initiative. What did you mean by this, Ian?
Hmm. Um, Comparing it with other factions, some options of the Empire really have the extreme ranges of initiative in their selection. You have a lot of initiative 5 and initiative 6 ships. These are actually the special ships that the Empire created for their best pilots. So we have Suntir Fell, which is very famous in both editions, and I think he's also fielded a lot. So that is one strength in initiative. We also have Vader, of course. Let's not forget Vader. He's the best pilot in the galaxy,
In
or so
any
it says.
trilogy?
in any trilogy.
Yes.
Yes, and we also have a lot of other options. Even the bomber, I think, even though it's not an ace ship to consider, it has for Tomax brand, I think, and yeah, it's a high initiative. It has high initiative options for its selection. So I think if you really want to go that route, you can push your list to lean towards that, and it'll still be viable, or if not competitive.
Okay. And on the variety of ships, you mentioned something about them being more specialized.
Hmm. For FFG, we have to think FFG for this, and of course the sequence of trilogy, since Empire is actually the first factions to be released. They already had a lot of. It's a long period of time that FFG got to release several ships for this. So they released the basic ones, the TIE Fighter, the TIE Bomber, the Lambda Shuttle, and all of that. Vader ship, the TIE Advance, and that's something that to consider as basic. But if we dive deeper into the lore, into other stories, there's the TIE Phantom, there's the TIE Defender, and other ships, and those aren't actually as emphasized in the movies, but somehow FFG still runs a business, so they gotta keep pumping those numbers up, and they're not forced. They're encouraging players still to play the Empire faction with these variety of ships. So it has support ships also. It has aces. It has tanky ships. It has tanky ships like the
Yeah,
Decimate.
that's what's interesting about the empires. Like they have like a ship for every occasion, right?
Yes, yes. And
So they have ace platforms, they have tank
very
platforms, they
true.
have missile
Yeah.
platforms, they have bomb platforms, they have all that stuff.
Yes, and I like the range of ships in Empire. I think every faction will go there eventually. It's just that Empire and the other factions had the head start. So for now, we consider it a real strength to the faction.
Yes, and being an empire, they should have the capability to produce a ship for just singular purpose, unlike
Mm-hmm.
the rebels or some other factions
Oh
wherein, of
yes, yes,
course, they
that's
only have a limited number of ships. They have to pack that much functionality into one ship,
mm-hmm.
wherein the empire would spread it out into specialized ships to handle that singular purpose.
Mm-hmm. I think you're saying that for other factions or to the rebels or they have they're forced to have a multi-purpose ship.
Yes.
Whereas in Imperials, you can actually tailor fit that ship to the purpose you want it to be doing.
No, you don't have to tailor fit anything. You just
Oh,
pick it.
sorry.
That's
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Uh,
you're correct. You're correct.
So next is, of course, the high agility ships. You were
Mm-hmm.
saying about the TIE fighter being balanced. Two
Yes.
red attack dice and then three agility.
Yes. For if we go back to the several Thai variants, there is rarely an occasion where you would have uh, less than three dice, except for the non-nimble ships, of course. But um, and I think that in itself is probably a strength and a weakness because when you say high agility ship, you rely more on the dice. But for me, I think when the odds are in your favor, green dice is good. I mean, fickle as it may seem, green dice or having more green dice is always an option. For the Empire, having extra one or two, depending on your upgrades or your crew, you can add green dice for it, and it makes the ships a little more survivable, if not um, survive a turn or two more.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's no way, even like with a full modded normal 3 at red attack dice at range 3, there's like only 1 in 10 chance that you'd sink that TIE fighter.
Yes, that's gonna be utter bad luck or just
Yeah.
a really focused fire, and by that time you would have wasted a lot of shots on a low point ship. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Or even at range 1, a TIE fighter won't die in the odds of it dying in a single shot is like maybe that's a little bit higher, maybe 3 out of 10 times or 4,
Yeah,
but
well, I mean,
never most of the time.
yes, I mean, with high agility, you get green dice, and of course, these the low agility pilots of the Empire, not exactly the Tie Fighter, they still get to perform their action first, so either a focus or an evade, and that'll help. That'll help them survive the first salvo.
True. And next, you were saying more about maneuverability.
Yes, observing the dials of the Empire faction, I was actually browsing it the other day, and I'm seeing a lot of uh, banks and turns and even straights that are actually blue, which is a benefit when you're considering, since you actually get to fly a swarm, or if you fly a swarm, you need to have a lot of uh, blues and banks and turns because it actually takes patience and skill to learn. You don't just it's not intuitive to fly a swarm. For for me, the first time I did it, I flew it in the tournament, but I did it so badly. I was the templates tricked me. I wasn't expecting it, but it was actually an advantage since you get to know your dial first, and then you exploit or not explode. You optimize the use of that maneuverability. You get to fly around. You get to fly circles around your enemies faster. You keep your
Yeah.
formation tighter, and
Mhm.
then you maximize their capability or their swarm effect.
Yeah. So from the lowliest TIE fighter to the most ace platform, they always have an option to how they maneuver, and it's not that easy to predict as compared to an X-wing, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, X-wings now have barrel rolls, but still, um, we're talking about two different things. I mean, TIE fighters and even the TIE Punisher bomber has a barrel roll.
Yes, yes, they're
Yeah. So
they're
how why?
maneuverable.
Yeah, they're still very maneuverable. And in terms of maneuverability, they also have access to certain turns that most ships other don't have, like the one turn and
Yes.
mostly sloops and
Mm-hmm.
K turn, right? Like even a TIE
Yes.
fighter has sloops and a K turn.
Yes. And I think that's a tactical advantage for Empire. Their ships have the capacity to make a kill box easier, or at least uh, move your ships in a way wherein your positioning can have the arc face the enemy more frequently than expected. The only downside is uh oh, maybe I should save this for later, but they don't have one forward, or at least
Most of them don't have
most
one.
of them don't have one forward. So you have to be sure that you're gonna fly this direction, or if you turn a little too early, or if you boost a little too late, then it'll take you a couple more turns to recover from that.
True. And you're saying, and what does this mean in tech? Sorry, I think I got this wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
in technology. So I'm guessing, um,
Mm-hmm.
what does?
Um, this actually I'm pertaining to some of upgrades that are Empire exclusive, or some of the uh, ship capabilities that they employed here. One of the primary examples that I want to emphasize here is the availability of cloaking in Empire. The TIE Phantom has the cloaking, and it's really fun to play, especially when it's your first time, or when you really trained yourself in decloaking and getting the unpredictability you want with the upgrade or the technology, quote unquote, in Empire faction. Also, they also have the uh, what do you call this? Some upgrades that aren't available to other factions, and they also have several slots that you can use, and that's one thing to look forward to Empire.
Cool. So yeah, the just to add to that, like the TIE Phantom, I think is it the only? It's the only ship
Mm-hmm.
I know that can cloak
Cloak
in
and
and
decloak
out.
natively. Yeah.
Yeah, natively without at ease, with no worries,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the upgrade slots on, for example,
Mm.
like the TIE Punisher
And the TIE
or
Defender.
yeah,
Yeah,
the TIE Defender can just like go back and
you can
forth
just go
every
back and
turn.
forth without stressing itself. And it's a fun mechanic due to the fact that the lore behind it is the Empire has this technology which makes these kinds of ships. So lore wise it's great, and game wise it's fun to play.
True. And let's not forget the Alpha Star.
Oh
Uh,
yes, yes. Let's not forget the hatchet list, or the
oh,
hatchet man.
the slamming ship that can still fire torpedoes.
Mhm.
Well,
And I think
I
it
think a lot
has
of them, yeah,
uh,
can or
one of I think it's fun to use the alpha, what do you call it, alpha class Star Wing,
mhm.
because it has this uppercut feel where you just blow a ship out of the space in one turn. Yeah,
It's possible, but
it's possible. That, I think it's one of the builds that are effective in doing that.
okay. So, yeah, I think we built up this faction way too much. I think we're making it sound too good. We have to
Hmm.
balance it
Yeah,
out.
to
We have
balance it
to
out,
say what's something bad about the faction this time. Okay,
one
and
one thing bad about the faction is that they don't know how to design a Death Star properly. Or sorry. Game wise, looking at the other factions first. Of course, when you're flying out in space, there's a lot of debris, there's a lot of blaster fire going on. You'd want to protect your ship, but unfortunately, Empire doesn't have that uh, the shield or the capability to protect itself from blaster fire a lot. You just take it, and actually there's little shields, but it's almost paper thin. That leaves your ships very vulnerable. If you make a mistake in maneuvering, and there's a couple of hits that go in your ship, those could really penalize your your progress. Yeah.
yes, because of course shields block possible crits and
Yes.
negative effects that if you didn't have them would right go straight to the hull and would
Yes.
really
I
turn the
think
tide.
I think having more shields makes a list more forgiving for mistakes, especially when you're learning the game. But the first few times I've played Empire, I was really bummed out at how fast some of my ships die. Because of course I wasn't able to choose or bluff the opponent on where I'm going or where I'm flying. But that's one of the things that might discourage you from playing Empire. That it has no shields, and when you get fully modded shots, expect that ship to be erased from existence.
Well, not totally erased, but
Not
yeah, we can
totally
talk
erased,
more
but
about that.
you're gonna get a lot of smoke in your hull and expect that your
Yeah,
life
so
support
if
is
you're
done.
going to play this faction, you should not care about getting hit. You should not feel bad when you get hit because
Hmm.
it is definitely going to happen with
Yes.
with no shields.
Yes. And in 2.0 and X-Wing 2.0, you're gonna get hit no matter what. The evade tokens don't actually stack on top right now, which was a drawback, or which removed the advantage of Empire
You
from the
think so?
previous edition.
But okay.
Yeah, somehow.
Well, fair enough, but I guess it is in a way a balance in a sense. But
Yes, which is
yeah,
actually better for the game.
yeah, better for the game overall though. But yeah, I think yeah, you're right. The Empire did take a hit in that sense. Now, moving on to the next, you special mentioned the Astromechs here.
Yes, of course. When we watch Star Wars, you actually get to see a lot of droids, and they are close buddies of the pilots. They provide assistance with flying. They warn you of incoming ships, and most of the time they get to repair when you're in your ships when you're damaged. And sadly, Empire doesn't have those. We don't have your BB-8s or your R2D2s or even C3POs, or well,
Uh,
C3PO is not an astromech, but other R2 and R4 variants that are R3
yeah,
also.
that's actually quite interesting. Is there a lore explanation for that? Is that do they not like droids? Did Darth Vader have a traumatic experience with droids?
He's a droid himself. Well, partially.
Cy cybernetic whatever or but yeah. So I wonder why that is. Is there
And I only consider it as a weakness because if I tend to compare upgrades, you get crew with Empire and you get astromechs with other factions. But Seemingly, astromechs have seem to be a toolbox type, whereas crew, you don't you get them as an extra upgrade, but they're not as useful for me as this astromech is.
Yes, and since astromechs are cheaper and more uh, fit a singular purpose, actually they would be a great fit for the Empire, but they
Hmm.
just don't have access to them right now.
And you actually get to beep and boop when you play the game, so I think that's good also.
Yes. Well, who knows? Maybe in the future they'll come up with one.
Maybe the Gonk droid. Yeah, we have the Gonk droid, but it's not an astromech.
Oh yeah, it's crew. Okay, so easy kills, high deaths. I think this is in relation to what you were mentioning earlier.
Yes, we've been repeating this for quite some time, and that is because that is inherent to this faction. Expect your ships, if you make a mistake or if you really want to meet to joust your opponents, expect that your numbers are going to dwindle fast. And of course, that's also something you have to play around on, expecting some of the ships to change position, and then you're some of the times also you get to unintentionally block yourself, and you have no one to blame but yourself also, because most of the time you'll be experiencing the death of that blocked ship.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's a kind of a like a high risk, high reward thing. But
Hmm.
we'll talk more about that later.
Yes.
And lastly is weaknesses
Hmm.
as a low attack
Your
dice.
yes, low attack die. If you compare um, a lot of ships from other factions, they usually count the red die first, and they get three or higher, if not a consistent three. For Empire, you get a primary of two. Three is high, and you rarely even get to higher than three. You have to pay extra points for upgrades to equip that ship with an ordnance or a bomb or relevant upgrades that will keep those red dice in the table, and you hope that when you pay for those extra points they actually get to do something. And for me, having low attack dice really compensates for the fact that you get a lot of ships. So eventually it evens out. That's just how the Empire rolls.
Fair enough, fair enough. They're supposed to be like bees swarming and stinging you one
Yeah.
at a time until
Until you
you
faint
can't.
and you die. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if going so if I was a new player, Ian,
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to tell me pick the Empire if
Pick
you like a
pick the
challenge.
Empire first, of course, if you like challenge. As I said, this is in no way an easy faction to play. I don't, even though I took this faction up as a beginner, I really had a hard time learning. I was watching videos, but it takes a certain amount of practice and um, dedication to master this faction. First of all, there's the archetypes, the aces, the swarms, and the palp aces. When you say palp aces, that's usually a support ship plus the aces. Those are tricky lists, and the builds aren't as intuitive as um, I don't want to downplay other factions, but I think it just has a high floor uh, skill requirement for that matter.
Right. Okay. As with any list, I think everyone should be practicing to master the list, of course.
Yes, of
But
course.
definitely, if You don't know what you're doing, and you just bring a list you got from MetaWing. You're probably
Yeah.
gonna explode. Yeah.
You have to think a little extra. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, also, usually the Empire goes for variance play with the high agility. You gotta risk it more to have a larger reward, also. And that's the challenge in itself.
Okay, and another thing that you should consider if you want to pick this
Yeah.
faction is if ruthlessness is your
Is
thing. Okay.
Yes, we know Vader disciplines even his own generals. But that's not Vader only. That's inherent to the faction. You get small ships, they die, and life goes on. You know that. But if you pick aces, some ship goes down, and other aces just they don't really rely on the other ace, but somehow it still is able to carry you to win the game.
Yes, so totally like very little not really relying on teamwork here, just
Mm-hmm.
really relying on
Yeah.
I do my job, you do your
Do yours.
job. We're like office mates that don't talk outside the office. It's like you do that, your job, and yeah, I do my job, and
Mhm.
we're cool, that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
something like that.
And
And
then
of course, when the dark side calls you, when you want to feel that as if you're Vader breathing in his suit, or if you like Palpatine memes, like do it, or the I am the Senate stuff. Well, that's mostly Clone Wars stuff, but yeah, it somehow points to this. If you somehow like the evil aspect of Star Wars, and you like red sabers and dudes in white armor or black armor, you gotta pick this faction.
yeah, so if yeah, I mean, I don't want to assume that you're a bad guy in real life, but if you like the persona that the Empire exudes, like the strength and the utilitarianism and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff, yeah, this definitely would be a good fit for you as a faction.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's very easy to pick this faction. A lot of people actually have excess TIE fighters. Those are the easiest ones to pick. So if you really need, I don't know, if you want the Inferno Squad, you just get 4 or 5 TIE fighters, and you got yourself a list. And yeah, you can pick this faction if you want.
Okay, cool. Okay, so moving on. So okay, so we've decided this person who's watching right now is definitely gonna play Empire now with all the cool stuff we mentioned.
Yes,
So if that person is now gonna start, where does he go, or what does he or
he or
she?
she does. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you pick up first? Which ones? Yeah.
Oh, so I'm not sure. It depends on the purchase they want, or if they really want to go to a certain archetype that they've net decked. That's fine. Okay, I'm not judging. But some of the ships that are usually uh, fun to play, or interesting for me at least, we have these following ships. We have Vader Whisper, Redline, and the plain old Academy Pilot. With Vader, of course, he is the best. I'm not sure if he's still the best pilot, but
Probably still is.
yeah, probably still is. And he has uh, the force to help him also when you're flying him. So with Vader, you get these options or upgrades. You can actually fly Vader with minimal upgrades. But that's because you already paid the points for him as a platform, as an ace. But yeah, Vader is one of the more interesting pilots I've chosen in Flying Empire. He has basic actions he can perform, but as a beginner, if you don't know the complexities of flying yet, or the effects of actions, having a limited options actually help you in learning the game more.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And yeah, so Vader's one of those easy to,
Mhm. He's also forgiving, so because
yeah, very
if you
easy to learn but hard to master kind of thing.
yes, if you roll a focus, you can actually use a force if you forgot to take a focus action. So yeah, Vader. I think one of the top picks I would recommend if you're starting out. You who's watching the video right now. If you're
Okay.
going to join Empire.
Okay. Next we have Whisper, one
Yes,
of the
Whisper.
TIE Phantoms.
He is a Whisper. I think she
Oh,
is
sorry,
one
she.
of the uh, picks that I would recommend if you've been playing the game for quite some time. She has some. She has the cloak option and the decloak option also, which is a very tricky thing to do. I haven't mastered it myself, but I've seen it on the table, and it adds a layer of unpredictability to the ship. Even if the ship is vulnerable to shields and tree hull, that is you'll want to catch the ship, but due to the maneuvers and the decloak and added actions, it's really difficult to catch Whisper off
Yeah,
guard.
the cloaking what they call this
Mechanism.
archetype.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's in itself is its own platform. Like
Yeah.
even if you're playing swarms or aces or whatever, but the cloak phantom in itself is a self-contained learning machine that you have to learn how to play.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a mini game in itself. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying, right? Yes.
yeah, kind of like that.
Mhm.
And then next we have Red Line, one of the type
Yes,
punishers.
yes, Red Line Type Punisher. This is it's actually a step up from the Thai Bomber. If you're not familiar with the Thai Punisher yet, so basically you just have these extra two pods that are full of ordnance and missiles and whatnots. And I think Red Line is um, the tankier option in Empire. If you want something that just flies straight, or if you're more of a joust option, you can actually play it as that. But I think if you also want to lean on an ace direction, you can still play it as an ace, whereas you fly around and you hit them hard and hit them fast and just fly away again, reload, and then rinse and repeat. So Redline presents an option that uh, that is very useful and interesting to play with. I don't think Redline also offers a negative play experience because um, you can get to blow it up fast also. Yeah.
Well, if you're lucky at that point.
And because it has just one evade die. That's what I'm.
Yeah, but I guess
Yeah,
it still has 9 life though. That's pretty still hard to
yeah,
kill.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then lastly, but not the least, of course, is the humble TIE fighter.
Could be the least. Yeah, the humble academy pilot. I like the academy pilot because you see those black uh, armor troops or armored pilots. They just keep running to these ships with their carry-on life supports, and that's the essence of a swarm. You are a generic pilot, and you have a purpose to fulfill. Do it or die, or do it die trying. And I think you just fly a lot of these academy pilots and hope you don't bump with each other and hope for the best. Yeah.
Yes, so although it's not the most beginner friendly of ships,
It's
if you
not.
do start with TIE fighters, I'm sure that you will suddenly become a master at swarm formations and movements and placements after that because you know if you're able to manage moving as a group of these successfully,
Yes.
then the game of X-Wing is easy to you. Yeah,
Yes. Yes. You learn the basics with the Academy pilot, or you're forced to with if you're flying Academy pilot.
exactly. Yes. So, I think we've shared a lot of information to our new listener or new
Yes.
player.
To digest the information. Also, as bragging rights, Oliver Pocknell actually played with the Empire list on the latest 2019 Worlds, which is applaudable, and at best you can also copy the list he played with. Of course, it's a difficult list to play with. Surprisingly, if you've seen that video, he maximizes the use of Whisper. I think Whisper. Yeah, Whisper and Grand Inquisitor on that list. And Vader got eliminated. Don't no spoilers, but uh, Vader got
That wasn't a
eliminated.
spoiler. That's a spoiler. You just said just
do
spoiled
do
some
do
part.
link the world's video, and maybe they can watch and see
Are we
how.
allowed to? I
Yeah,
mean that's FFGs though. But okay, we'll try that. We'll try
yeah.
that.
If that's what I'm saying, that even if one ship gets blown up, you can still win. Yeah, and yeah, I like the Empire.
Definitely. So, thank you, Ian, for sharing your
Thank you.
insights.
Hmm.
And okay, thank me. But okay, so as we close out this episode, we'll try to do more of these in the following weeks. We still have a
What
lot more
factions
factions
do
to
we still
cover.
have to look forward to again?
Oh
We
man,
have
we only done three so far, so four.
we have a
So
lot. Actually, that's
yep.
a lot. Yes. Okay.
So we have a lot more factions than we used to, so a lot more to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So for those listening, please, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll catch you in the next one. And
Yay!
so for the Thinking Scrubs, I'm Raymond,
And this is Ian
and we're signing off.
signing off.
Goodbye.
Bye for now. Join the Empire.